You don't want to sell to the American? Meet my French husband and waste your time, by usergear01. So I'm, 38F, vacationing with my mother, 71F, in Europe right now, and she just told me this epic story that I must now pass down to all of you. Some background: my mother is a very nice person to strangers, especially salespeople. Aggressive salespeople will back her into a corner for an hour until I come rescue her because she doesn't want to be rude. My father passed a few years ago at age 81, and he was born in Egypt and was schooled in both French and Arabic and considered both to be his native languages, and then learned English as an adult when he moved to the US. A few years after they got married in 1976, but before they had kids, they took a vacation to Paris. My mother collects stamps, and she wanted some French plate blocks to add to her collection. She left my father napping in the hotel room and went to the post office a block away, planning on spending $300 to $400 on stamps. She got to the post office and waited in a very long line. When she finally got to the front, the woman behind the counter told her in perfect English that she didn't speak English, so my mom waited for another post employee to become free. The second employee finally became available but was very rude to my mother, telling her that she couldn't help her, couldn't sell her this, out of stock of that, etc., while rolling her eyes and being otherwise nasty and rude, nearly bringing my mother to tears. My mother was so upset that she decided to get some revenge. She went back to the hotel room and woke up my father and brought him to the post office. My mother waited until the rude woman was available and had my dad translate in perfect French, telling the woman that my mom wanted the plate block of every set of stamps she had, watching her remove the plate block from each sheet. For those of you that don't know, when you remove the plate block from a sheet of stamps, the remaining stamps must be counted by hand. After the nasty woman had a nice stack of plate blocks for my mother, one of every stamp design they had, my mother turned to my father and said, "Tell her I've changed my mind." Not only did that woman miss out on a huge sale for being mean and nasty, but she also had to spend a good 30 to 60 minutes after closing to hand count each individual stamp after they closed for the day. I am just so proud of my very polite mother right now. Edit. Those of you saying my mom is a Karen, you have serious reading comprehension issues. Also, the nasty woman spoke English, as most people do in France. So chill. My brother demands that I buy a lot of gifts for my nephews, so I make him regret it, by user Prinskitty. English is my third language, so sorry for possible mistakes. Here is my little revenge against my brother and Sil. I have no children, by choice. However, I adore my nephews, 9F, and 6M. I like to give them things for their birthdays and Christmas, like books or games that I think they might like. Well, last year, in November, I got a call from my brother. He told me that he thinks I should try harder with gifts for his kids, because I don't have kids of my own and I have a good job. And that he expects him to give them lots of things for Christmas, implying that I wouldn't be able to see them again if I didn't. I don't like it at all, and I think what I do with my money is my business. Personally, I think my brother and Sil are jealous because I travel a lot on vacation, but that's no excuse to be picky. After giving it some thought, I decided to make sure he would never ask me for something like that again. I went to the store and told one of the clerks that I wanted the most annoying toys they had. I bought a drum set, 2 trumpets, a children's keyboard, 2 guitars, 2 xylophones, a few sound toys, makeup stuff for little girls, a bracelet making set, glitter. Those are the ones I remember, although there were a few more that dirty a lot. The naive parents were very happy when I told them that I needed help carrying the gifts. They clearly thought I was obeying them and planning to give amazing gifts to my nephews. But that changed when the children began to open the presents. Of course, my nephews were very happy with everything they received and really wanted to start playing. But the best was the face of my brother and Sil. The horror growing with each gift that was opened. It was wonderful. I left a few hours later with a sore head from the noise, but amused because my nephews didn't seem to have any intention of stopping anytime soon. I was reminded of this recently, as my niece is going to be 10 in a few weeks and my brother has been strongly hinting to me that I don't have to spend a lot on gifts and that something simple is more than enough. As far as I know, between my visits and those of other relatives, several toys have been lost or no longer work. I think I'll be nice and just buy my niece a couple of books for her birthday. Edition with minor update. Well, I certainly didn't expect so many comments. I just wanted to share something funny that happened to me, but I want to thank all of you for the support you have given me, especially those who praise my English. And yes, my other 2 languages use the masculine plural to refer to a group, So when you read nephews, I mean my nephew and niece. I've talked to my brother and he admits that his wife encouraged him to demand more gifts from me. I have told him clearly that he would not accept that again. And if he threatens me again that I will never see my niece and nephew again, I will not hesitate to explain the situation to the rest of the family. I know for a fact that my parents would take my side, because they don't like my sil. My niece will receive for her birthday next week a book by C.S. Lewis. I'm sure many of you guess which one, since she has seen the movie recently and loved it. I will also give her an ordinary toy, without unbearable noises. Thanks a lot for your support. Maybe I'll upload more stories from other relatives, although I don't think they fit with this sub, so if I do it will be in others. Don't respect women's bodily autonomy? Then I'll exercise mine by weaponizing my ass against you, by user gasm throwaway. First, some background, I have seriously stanky farts. I'm talking face-melting, mind-rending, nightmare-inducing smells. Gas that will make you question your belief, or confirm your doubt, in the existence of a just and loving God. It's not lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance, celiac, Crohn's, SIBO, anything serious like that. I just have extra funky gut bacteria that enjoy turning anything I eat into noxious, creeping clouds of ass death. I generally try to use my power responsibly. I'll excuse myself from the room, warn others to avoid ground zero after a bomb's been detonated, or even stick my butt out of a door or window if the situation so requires. But I'm also not above using my gas to go on the offensive against those that deserve it. That's what this story is about. This past Saturday, my husband, his brother, my sister, and I went out for lunch. I won't go through the rather convoluted circumstances that brought the group together, but it wasn't exactly a pairing of choice. My husband's brother, let's call him Chad, is basically a walking caricature of an immature, extremely online today bro who approximates having a personality by acting like an IRL Twitter troll. My husband and I try to spend no more time around him than being family requires. My poor sister was getting her first extended exposure to him and definitely wasn't enjoying it. For reasons that will become apparent, I'll note that Chad was driving, and he's got a new car that he's very protective of. Anyways, on our back from the restaurant we went for Vietnamese, we passed by a small protest against the leaked Roe opinion. Naturally, that's Chad's cue to chime in with the most repulsive take imaginable. Holy shit, he screeches, nobody fucking cares. These cunts need to get a fucking life already. My husband shakes his head and says, dude, you're such an asshole. My sister lets out an exaggerated sigh. I'm ready to go on a rant that would have left him crying for his alt-right internet buddies, but then I felt a slight bubbling in my tummy, and I had an even better idea. You see, while my farts are awful no matter what I eat, there are certain foods that take them to a whole nother level of putridity. And it just so happens that pho, which I had ordered at lunch, is near the top of that list. I'm not sure why, but my gut's grotesque alchemy never fails to turn those tiny bowls of noodles, beef, and broth into my very own organic nerve gas. I'd normally never consider unleashing that kind of horror in an enclosed space, but this was my chance to ruin Chad's afternoon, and I had to take it. With the discreet lift of a cheek and slight flex of my ab muscles, I let it go like Elsa. And I knew right away that it was going to be all that I had bargained for, and then some 4 seconds of silent steam that instantly warmed the car seat to 100 degrees Celsius. I cleared my throat and declared, calmly and confidently, I am so sorry. My husband and sister recognized this as my code phrase used whenever I dropped the hammer in the company of others, and it naturally sent them into a minor panic. They both started jamming at the window controls, only to find they were locked. My husband told Chad to open the windows. Nah, it's raining, Chad replied. It was more like a faint drizzle. No, seriously dude, open the fucking windows, my husband implored with increasing urgency. Chad held firm. Not getting the leather wet. Fatalism set in. My sister pulled her scarf over her nose. My husband wrapped his arm around his face like an 8-year-old playing Dracula. Chad drove along, oblivious. And then the stink tsunami that I had sent rolling through the atmosphere crested and crashed. As Chad didn't take precautionary measures, he was the first to react. He emitted a guttural, animalistic cry of anguish and began coughing. Yogagag. What the cough the fuck is that smell? I was more than happy to take responsibility for this one. Excuse me, I said. I farted. That was my choice. Chad tried to respond but was struggling too much to breathe to get the words out. The windows went down, but it was too late for that to do any good, and Chad soon pulled over. I think the car was still moving when he practically jumped out of it. As he stood there in the rain cursing me out, disgusting bitch, that smell is fucking inhuman, women shouldn't even do that, etc. I just smiled and smiled. I may not have solved anything, but damn, it felt good to fight back. Even after he got back in the car he was complaining that it still stunk, and honestly, I hope it still does. 4 weeks. Can't bother to figure out my name? Well, you have a new name now too, by user Hitler_the_painter. I have a first name that with some tweaking could be seen as a last name, and same deal for my last name. Let's just say it's Matthew Williams. Throughout my career I have constantly get emails from people that start with Hi William. For years I didn't correct people, but it's just gotten out of hand. I've made my name bold in my email signature, capitalized it, everything I can do. But some people still can't figure it out. It's astounding how much it happens with people that have had multiple emails with me, even people within my own organization. So my new policy is I let it go the first time. But if someone does it more than a couple times, I start referring to them as their last name minus a letter. E.g., if a repeat offender named Frank Smith emails me and calls me William, I respond with Hi Smith. And continue doing so until they fix their mistake. A lot of people figure out what I'm doing and quietly fix their mistake in the future, but some people never figure it out, and to this day probably think I'm the idiot. Oh well. You going to take your 30 minutes break at a fuel pump? Well, let's make it longer, by user lap_killa. This is from my trucking days. In the winter I would fill up on diesel exhaust fluid, every time I would get fuel because dispenser would get frozen and won't pump in cold weather. Without truck would go into derate mode, basically locking it to few miles an hour, and you have to call certified mechanic to fix the issue, which costs a lot of money and downtime. I pulled up to fuel pumps behind a truck, only couple fuel pumps had pump station on them and were in use. Driver wasn't fueling but could have went inside to activate the pump. Oh well, I can wait, time to change that turn signal that burned out on me. Pulled the bulb out and was going inside to get a new one. I look over in the cab and both drivers just sitting there having a lunch. Next is the conversation we had. Me, are you guys going to fuel up? Drivers, we are done. Me, could you move? Because I gotta get fuel. Drivers, we can't for next 20 minutes because of mandatory break. Me, you could have parked in a lot, which were like 100 feet just in front of them. Drivers, we will move when we will move. Now get lost. I seen an oversized truck sitting at the pump next to them and watching me. Walked over and explained to him what was up. He asked if I still had hours on my logbook. Said yes. He asked me if I could guide him. I knew right away what he was thinking. Block those idiots in. So oversize with my help starts backing up in front of those drivers who were oblivious to what's going on until air brakes were set on oversized truck. They were pissed and started yelling that they had to go. We said sorry, but we can't move. You know that mandatory 30 minutes break. They complained to stuff but nothing came of that. Made some calls but that didn't result in anything. Me and oversized driver had a good hour-long conversation. Told those two idiots to never park at fuel pumps except for fueling. They left and I got my fuel with